G'day, Ben from Duckplate Chicken here with a new build series. And for once, I'm not building a model that's, really old. So this is the 1/72nd Atreides Ornithopter by Meng. I know it's been out for a little bit, but for me, this is still a fairly new kit. 1/72nd scale is still going to be quite big, I think, for this kit. I have seen the sort of small box scale ones and seen people build those up. But I always thought it'd be better to have, a bigger one. Now, I actually had the Harkonnen Ornithopter on pre-order. I decided to cancel that pre-order after I saw people building this one and saw how big it was. So I just don't have the room for both of them. So I think one's enough. I prefer the design of the Atreides one. It's a bit sleeker. So, first step is, let's see what's in the box. We get a number of sprues in this dark green or olive green colour, and so this one is sprue B, and these are, I guess, the mechanics of the wings. They do sort of mesh together on the inside so that they go in unison, although I'm a bit dubious as to how well that's going to work. If you look at some of these sort of teeth sizes and stuff, to me that kind of, I don't know how practical that's going to be. But anyway, we'll see. We have sprue D, which has some ramp details. So you can have this set up as the ramp at the back of the craft deployed, or you can have it up. There's also some details of the landing gear. And if you have a look, you do get some nice detail in there. I think there's plenty of opportunities to weather this thing up. So done some really nice sort of surface detail. You can see on the ramps there. We get some seats for the cockpit. We get more landing gear. The two options where the ramp is deployed and the landing gear is down, and the other one where the ramp is up and the landing gear is also retracted. So it's sort of two different assembly groups, I guess, that you can choose between. Okay, this is sprue A, and you're starting to get an idea how big this thing is. So this is the main body of the craft, but it is really nicely sort of detailed. It's got a bit of a sort of textured surface to it, which is really nice. And then you get two sprues of the wings. So to give you an idea of the wingspan of this thing, each of these wings is 35 centimeters long, or just over a foot. So you got two of those. This thing gets big when the wings are fully out. So you get two of these sprues. So it has a total of 8 wings. You get this separate piece for the cockpit, which is nice. It's kind of interesting the way they've done that. But that's nice. Sort of some nice little detailing on it. We get these two tiny Atreides emblems. So it's actually nice that they're separate. At least we can maybe paint them a different colour if we need to. And we get a crew of 4. Looks like. So we've got one of them comes in 2 pieces. I suspect that would be Duke Leto, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll have to see once I've get the instructions out. We get some clear parts for the cockpit, which I haven't removed from the plastic. I'd like to protect them and try and keep them as scratch free as possible. We have 2 very small poly caps, which I nearly threw away because they were sort of in the bottom of the bags, and so just be mindful of that. Hang on to that one. 2 of these sand coloured sprues. So this is for the base. Got a big wide platform for the bottom, and then we've got this sort of interesting design for the for holding it up. I haven't decided yet whether I'll use this or come up with something on my own. I'm more inclined to sort of go with the one that's provided. Finally, we have the instructions, which is a really nice full colour book. I do prefer this format for instructions. So we've got what looks like English, Chinese and Japanese. and Russian. So multiple languages. There's not a lot of text in here, but I guess it's sort of fairly straightforward build by the look of it. Really nice sort of indication of what parts go where. There's nothing here that I see that is looks particularly difficult. Landing gear, it looks like, yeah, so we've got one where the landing gear is deployed, and then you've got one where landing gear is retracted. So they give you the two options, and they show you that you can swap out the two assemblies. Okay, the base, sprue call out. Then we get the paint call out. So not a large range of colours in this. So I should say the colours that they've referenced in the painting guide and on the box are 8K interactive colours, and I'm sure I'll find something that's equivalent in the SMS range. I started assembly on the kit with the cockpit as per the instructions. However, I'm just going to glue these bits in here. The seats and the figures I'm going to paint separately before I glue in. So I'm going to work on sort of some sub-assemblies and then come back to painting the seats and the figures. So I've already put in these pieces. I've just sort of dry fit them, and they go in really well, a nice snug fit. And the great thing I like about it is you can see where the pegs have come through the bottom there, and what that means is that I can take a little bit of Tamiya extra thin, and I can dab a little bit just in these where the pegs are. So that way I'm not getting glue all over the place. I'm not trying to sort of squeeze these bits in place while there's glue going everywhere. So there's a little bit in the control panel that sort of attaches to the pedals, and that gives a really nice sort of finish. So that's about as much I'm going to do on the cockpit for now. The next bit is the sort of structure of the wing mounts, and so it's kind of interesting if, you know, having read the instructions. So this thing fills sort of the center of the fuselage, which means that it's not really sort of true to the actual craft, because of course there's a passageway that goes all the way through from the back to the front. But I guess they've had to do this for, you know, stability of the wings and the gimmick of making them sort of flap in unison. So we have this part here, and then we have a number of these sort of sockets that will end up holding the wing mounts, but then you've got these little geared parts, and thankfully they're labelled. So I tend to sort of take all pieces off the sprue, clean them up, which, you know, makes it a lot easier when they've actually got the reference of the parts on them. So these line up in these little slots here. Got these little pins here, and then they've got like a little track. So we squeeze this into place. So this will rotate, and it's very sort of limited as far as how much it will rotate, but that feels really positive sort of fit. As you rotate this one, the other one sort of follows suit. And again, it doesn't go very far, but it's sort of enough. Okay, and then we have this back piece, which sort of sandwiches it all together. So I think in order to glue it, I can actually use those four pegs that have sort of come through the middle there. Now, a lot of this stuff, like these seams and stuff, aren't going to be seen. They're going to be covered up by the fuselage side panel. So I think in order to glue these together, all I need to do is just drop some glue in with these 4 points. And that means I'm not going to be accidentally sort of gluing the movable parts. Now, of course, looking at the instructions, I know that, for example, you know, this is all sort of, clamped together. It's not going to go anywhere. The glue's just to sort of hold it in place I don't have to worry about seams or anything here. So I'll let that to dry, and then on to the next one, and then L4. So it needs to be aligned so they're both like that, and then I'll rotate. So it's my first Meng kit. I believe it's pronounced Meng, but I'm not sure. So far so good. Really liking the way this model kit goes together. So one of the parts is really nice. Plastic feels good. Okay, and then we've got all these sort of pegs here that have to line up, and there'll be the bits that I can glue. So let's squeeze that together. Now I should actually point out that this is a kit that you will need glue. There are some parts that obviously will hold together really well, just friction fit, but it's really designed to be a glue kit. Okay, so I'll leave that for a bit. On to the next bit. Okay, we get to the point where we need to start sort of closing or inserting bits in the fuselage and then closing up the fuselage, but I'm not going to do that till I've sort of painted the cockpit. But one thing we can do is join these guys together. At first glance you kind of think, oh, it hasn't been closed up properly, but there is actually sort of this bit that stops that from happening, so obviously it's supposed to be spaced out a certain way, and I suspect that's how it fits in the fuselage. So again, more sort of detailed bits will come to when I get the fuselage halves together, but one thing we can do in the meantime is the I can't remember, are these lights or are they weapons? In the artwork they're sort of shown as lights. I can't remember if they've actually got if they fire or not. I was sort of looking at doing some lighting in this kit, but these things are just way too small. Okay, give you an idea of sort of how you can see how small these things are, and I've sort of put one in place. I haven't glued it yet, but yeah, there's no way I'm going to get LEDs in there, so I'm going to have to do something to emulate the fact that they've got lights on them. So yeah, you sort of get this crossbar bit and then these small bits that go on here. So they sort of go on like that. And we take this other piece here and we snap it into place. Alright, so it does actually snap into place. You've got to give it a little bit of a push. And we take this piece here and that will clamp it all into place. And all of this really doesn't feel like it needs any glue, but I think I will just give it a little bit of glue just to hold it in place to make sure that that hinge doesn't sort of fail later on down the track. Alright, so these things do rotate, which is nice. And then we have this bit which will eventually plug into the nose of the fuselage. And it's a good solid fit. I don't think that's going to need glue at all. And so that will hang under the nose. Okay, starting off with the deployed landing gear, we've got these two parts here that we need to sort of join together, and I'm just contemplating whether I worry about the seam underneath here. And I don't know if I really need to worry about it because it's going to be sort of underneath. So I might use some thicker glue to put this together. Let's tack that in place. So I'm running a thick bead of glue. Okay, now put this this up and join it together. Run a little bit of glue down the middle here. Alright, so there's not much I can do until that bit's sort of all dried. Okay, so the next thing it asks for is to take these leg parts and add their shoes. So let's make sure we get this around the right way. Looks like it goes in that way, like so. Alright, so we've got 2 of the feet done. Okay, so next bit we've got this odd looking shape, and then we've got a peg and a hole for this part. I'm not quite sure if that glues in yet. I assume it does, but I just want to check what the orientation is supposed to be first. It's just where sort of on this last page here. So I'll just loosely fit those. Okay, so these are actually the rear feet. So I think that's actually going to be worth leaving them loose, just so I can sort of adjust it later if needed, because I think this, you know, at the bottom of this part needs to sit firmly on the ground, so I might not glue those in place. Okay, so this is the front legs. We've got these 2 strut pieces here that join up. And then we have this little piece. It's supposed to slide in over that somehow. Okay, so it goes like so. Then we have the foot, which should all sort of line up. 3 holes. Okay, takes a little bit of finagling to get all 3 points lined up, but this little piston piece here, it's got a little bit of movement in it, so you really need to sort of line up the other 2 and then get that middle piece in, and then we should be able to put in the other side of it. There's another piece that's supposed to go on here first, so let me get that on. Okay, so it's got this little back piece, and now I can join these 2 up and give them a good squeeze. Right, and then there's a piece that's going to actually mount it to the fuselage. So this goes, looks in, so you can see it's going to be sort of splayed out like that. But just having a look, sort of the level of detail is really nice. Lots of sort of mechanical bits going on, help to add to the realism of the craft. So it's credit to the production designers, and also credit to Meng for the way they've made this model. Okay, so now I need to, I'll quickly do the other one off screen. Okay, for this piece here on the underside of it, I'm doing some seam cleanup. So you can see top bit's alright, but I needed to just fill in a few little gaps that I've got to sand, and I did that with Mr. Surfacer 500. So yep, just waiting for that to dry, and then I can sand that back. The other side doesn't matter so much, like certainly this part, because that's what sort of locks into the bottom of the fuselage. Just a little bit of cleanup. these all seams here I'm really not going to worry about. I don't think much of it is going to be seen, given that there's these sort of other bits that you know, are going to be over it. So not too worried about that. Onto the guns. Now the guns are sort of, you can see I've done a bit of cleanup there, a bit of sanding, but that inset piece there, I really want to clean that up, just because, you know, these are kind of the focus of the front underneath the nose, so I want to make sure these look pretty good. So if I show you the other side, I've cleaned that up reasonably well, so I want to talk about how I've actually done that. First of all, for these seams, you've got this little bit that overhangs, so for that, that's quite difficult to sand. I'm a big fan of these Infini model files. They're really thin, and I've got sort of a medium and then a fine, and they also come in sort of a narrower version as well, so they get you into really tight spots. So I did a lot of the sanding with those, and I also use a flexifile, which is with this sort of sanding paper on a band, and it means you can sort of get in underneath that bit and just sand it away. So that's how I sort of did the sanding of the seams. But I want to talk about how to deal with these insets. Now, my recent trip to Japan, I bought myself some new tools, as I inevitably do. And some of the tools I bought are these things, which are chisels, and they're produced by Wave. So here's a 3mm one, and they have these caps that you unscrew, and of course that protects the chisel, and then you can put it on the other way, and that gives you sort of a grip, or you can just screw it on the end. It doesn't matter, but it's a really interesting kind of design. I really like these this format. You know, they're metal handles, so you know they're not going to break or anything. Reasonable sort of chisels, and the one that I have used for this process is a 2.4mm chisel. So what I do is simply go into the rectangular spot and just scrape. I'm not doing it particularly hard. I'm trying to let the blade do most of the work. I've got the blade on a bit of an angle, and I just keep scraping away. And then every now and then I'll turn around and go from the other direction. Just keep working on it. That's sort of slowly wearing it down, and eventually I get to where that seam is. And you can see how that seam's sort of now almost gone. So that's how I'm sort of cleaning that up. The rest of it's not too bad. It was really just those sides I really wanted to clean up, just because they are going to be noticeable, you know, underneath the nose. Alright, I'm working on some other elements of the cockpit just to get them ready to get some paint on them. The chairs in the cockpit are all identical except for one. 4 of them have the holes to hold the figure characters, and there's one that doesn't have a hole. So that one there, because there's no one sitting in that seat. But basically they go together where you've got this base for the chair, and that just sort of snaps into place. Oops, get it around the right way. Short legs at the front, and that's what attaches it to the cockpit floor. So I don't think they actually need any glue. They seem to be a really tight fit, but I might give them just a little bit of glue just to be sure. I'm kind of conscious of the fact that I will be masking off the cockpit, and potentially flipping the cockpit upside down. So I just want to make sure that during the painting process, if I flip the craft upside down, I don't have things falling out. Now the figures are really quite interesting because so they give you 4 figures. They give you Paul Atreides, Duke Leto Atreides, Dr. Liet Kynes, and Gurney Halleck, and they're actually pretty well detailed. and it's all sort of in the face. I don't know how well it's going to come up in the camera. It doesn't help that they're in black, but that's Gurney Halleck there, so the sort of shorter hair. And then what have we got here? So this is Dr. Kynes, and you can see she's got, you know, longer hair. So the actual detail in the figures is reasonably impressive. What's this one? Paul Atreides, by the look of it. Okay, so again, you know, the hair sort of gives it away. They're all wearing the same, you know, still suit, so that you can't use that as a way to to tell them apart. Now, Duke Leto, of course, who's piloting the Ornithopter, he actually comes in two pieces. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was just because the moulding, probably because of the nature of his hands. But and we've got, and again, it's hard to see because they are black, but that is Duke Leto. They've done a really nice job of those figures. You know, I mean, some old kits especially, you sort of see the figures and you go, yeah, it doesn't look anything like them, or it just looks like some sort of random, you know, random kind of figure they've just pulled out of a hat somewhere, and it's not particularly well detailed and everything. These figures are really impressive. Now, of course, the problem with that is it's going to really show up my lack of figure painting skill, but nonetheless, we will give it a shot. So, I've got a bunch of stuff that I need to paint up, and I'll be starting by using SMS Black Primer. Now, as far as the colours go on this craft, it is black. That's what they call out on the instructions, but of course, it is heavily weathered by all the sand that it comes across, so it's going to have scratches and, you know, lots of sand build up and that sort of thing. So it's actually the weathering that's going to give it that sort of browny patina. But I need to get the cockpit done first, so what I'm going to do is put everything on pegs. So I've got the cockpit here. I'm also going to paint the inside of the cockpit, so inside here, so that's all sort of ready to go, and what the glass gets mounted to. So I'll be painting this, you know, the inside and everything, so I don't have to worry about that again. I've got the gun, I might as well prime that while I'm at it. Prime the seats black, the figures all in black. And then I can start looking at the sort of detail painting, a bit of dry brushing, that sort of thing on the figures. Now I've started some of the painting, and part of this is so that I can get the cockpit all sealed up and then worry about the external. So everything's got a coat of black primer, so SMS Surface of Black, and this is the interior here of the fuselage. And you'll notice that I've got a different colour sort of here for the inside of the cockpit. For that, I lightly sprayed on some IJN Deck 10 by SMS. And it's really tricky to get sort of good interior pics from the movie. So I should preface all this by the fact that I'm going for the look of these things from the movie, not from the actual props or models that we used. For me, I'm really sort of interested about how it looks in the film. So if we look at this screenshot, which is one of sort of a few shots I could get of the interior colour, and you see it's sort of very similar to the external where it's sort of dusty and all that sort of thing. So I've sort of gone to try and break it up a little bit. Very little of this is going to be seen. And I've used the same Deck 10 colour on the inside of the sort of cockpit front there. Before I join these up, you probably noticed that I've primed the interior black with bits that you're not going to see. And the reason for that is because I want to, before I close all this up, I want to do some experimentation for the painting on the exterior. So I want to try and work out what direction I'm going to go in. I've got black here, so I can do a bit of experimentation with that. And then for the other half, I've done the black primer, but then over that I've done, I've used this very dark brown from SMS. And the reason that I've gone for the brown is that if you have a look at the exterior of these things, it's obvious there is a very dark colour underneath. So I think that's why the call out is black in the instructions. But of course there's a huge amount of weathering. There's a lot of sort of sand and dust on these things. So I want to trial a couple of things, and hence I've gone one with black and one with the brown. But the majority of the colour for the exterior is actually going to be made up using some Tamiya weathering powders. So I'm going to be experimenting with set A and set H, and predominantly sort of the sand colour, light sand and ivory. So I'm going to try and get some sort of variation in the dustiness of it. So I'm going to start with the brown first. And of course these things, you know, they've got little applicators you can use. I tend to find a cotton bud will do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to start with the ivory first, and I'm just going to start sort of dabbing it on in areas just so I get an idea of, you know, how this stuff works, because I haven't actually used it a lot. I've used it a little bit, but I'm going to see if I can sort of get, you know, a few different tones of sort of sand and dust. And so I'm just dabbing this on, and by doing it on this interior piece, I can of course, you know, get a really good idea what direction I want to go in before I start weathering the exterior. For the chairs, I started with the SMS Surfacer Black undercoat, and then if you have a look in the shot here, you can sort of see the edges of the seats are sort of almost a bluey grey sort of colour, and earlier on in the movie you get a better look at them, and yes, it's sort of almost a metallic kind of blue grey. So for that I've gone with SMS grey, and it gives that really nice sort of bluey grey there. For the padding of the seat, I'm going to hand paint that, so I'll have to choose a colour for that. Okay, I have painted the figures, and figure painting is definitely not my strong suit, but I'll talk about the colours I used in a minute and try and sort of show these on camera a bit hard. So we've got Leto Atreides here. I've used a little bit of grey on the still suits. And we have Paul Atreides, so he's got like a lighter skin tone, and again the grey sort of dabbled on the still suit. And we have Gurney. He was probably the hardest one to sort of paint. He's got sort of greyish hair, so, well, salt and pepper, I guess. So we've got him, and then of course we've got Dr. Kynes. Yeah, she's actually wearing it's like a whitish robe, so I've sort of added that in. Not sure how much of that's going to sort of come through once we are looking at it through the windows of the cockpit, but anyway. So I'll talk about the colours I used. First of all, for the skin tones, I used these AK interactive flesh set. So this is from Flesh and Skin Colours, and these are just water-based acrylics. So for sort of the darker tones, I used AK3015, which is dark shadow flesh, 3011 base flesh, 3012 light flesh, and then 3013 highlight flesh. So between those four, I was sort of able to get all the skin tones of the four different characters. And usually you start the darker colour and then build up to a lighter colour. There's plenty of videos out there about painting miniatures using that technique. Now I'm sorry I didn't show it on camera, and the reason for that is just because I tend to sit right over the top of my figures when I'm painting them. So there was no way that that was going to come out on camera particularly well. So they're the skin colours. For the still suits, I use this Vallejo Mecha Color Grey Z 69039. So that was sort of dabbed on, just not dry brushed, because you want to sort of keep some sort of definition in there of some of those shapes and stuff. So it was sort of just lightly dabbed on in strategic places. For the hair of 3 of the characters, I used pure black 69042. For Gurney's, I added in, it was sort of black and a bit of the grey Z here mixed up. And for Dr. Kynes' white garment, I used Vallejo Model Air 71132 aged white. So that was the colours I used for the figures. Now I've actually gone ahead and painted the chairs as well. So they've come up reasonably well, I think. So the cushion sort of part of the chair is actually sort of a tan colour, or a brown, I guess, more of a brown colour. So for that, I brush painted 71133 Dirt by, again, Vallejo Model Air. And so I'm reasonably happy with the way the figures came out. Like I said, they're sort of, they're far from perfect, but given the distance you're going to sort of see them from, they'll be fine. Alright, so on to the rest of the interior of the cockpit so that I can get this buttoned up. Okay, I'm going to start working on the floor and the controls of the cockpit. And I want to sort of start on the controls first. So this has all been painted in SMS Surfacer Black. And I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing on the controls. But the other thing that I want to do is just add a little bit of colour. So just an indication of the lights. You can see in this image here the dashboard, if you call it that, or a little control panel. Really the only colour on it is a little bit of orange or a little bit of red. So there's not like a huge amount of colour. Most of it's sort of black and grey. So what I'm going to use is a bit of enamel, X6 Orange by Tamiya. And I'm going to attempt to get the smallest amount of paint on these this controller. So let's see how we go. Okay, maybe not going to see this on camera, but I've got just the tiniest bit of orange detail in there. At the end of the day, it's not even going to be seen, so I'm probably wasting my time. So what I'm going to do is take some of this Vallejo Mecha Color Medium Grey, 69038, and I'm going to do a bit of dry brushing. So I'm going to take a little bit of my palette, some paper towel. Now I've got a sort of flat brush here, and I'm going to get paint across the whole brush, and then I'm going to get rid of as much of it as I can. Really, you shouldn't be able to see any of it coming off on the paper, and that's when you know you've got enough on there. Okay, so you can see it's just picked out some of the edges, and that's really enough, I think. The camera does not want to focus on it, but trust me, there's a bit of dry brushing in there. Not much, but enough. Okay, the next step is I'm going to leave this black. I'm not going to bother painting it brown like I'm going to do with the rest of exterior. What I want to do is just use the Tamiya weathering powders to basically dirty this up. You're going to see very little of it, I think, through the glass. So pull out set H and set A again. Let's start with set H and get some ivory down. So this is just about me trying to get used to these weathering powders before I start on the exterior of the craft. And I've just got in with a smaller cotton bud here, but I think this is going to be problematic. Can I brush that out again? I'm going to be at least a little bit careful. I've got some delicate bits in here. Okay, so let's go in there with some, what's this, pale orange. Let's try and get a bit warmer tone sort of in there. Okay, alright, now I'll try some sand and maybe some mud. I mean mud the colour, not mud the the actual mud in there. Not a drop of water on a ruckus. Well, at least not on the ornithopters anyway. I like how it's getting caught in some of those crevices. It's almost sort of behaving like real dust would, collecting in all the crevices. So we're ready to insert the cockpit, get that in place. So there's a tab here that lines up with. Maybe a little bit hard to see, but there's a tab underneath there, and there's also one here as well that it needs to match up to. So I'm going to say the fit of this kit is really nice. Everything just seems to sort of line up really nicely. It is tight. I think part of that is the fact that I've got paint on everything, so I can't say I'm looking forward to matching up the other side. I think that's going to be fun and games. Alright, then we have this little piece here, which, where's that go? Slots in there somewhere. So that's going to hold another bit of the sort of detailed parts on the top. And then we have this little ramp, which I haven't actually painted. I probably should have, but if it's going to be visible at any stage, I should be able to get some paint onto it. Then we take our wing holders. You can see one's I coated brown, the other one's still black. It'll get everything will be painted brown anyway. It was just while I was sort of experimenting. So I want to make sure I get this around the right way. There is a way that it goes. So it's this over here. So again, there's some sort of tabs to line up with. It's a bit hard to see because it's all black in there, but yeah, they're like little locating tabs, and they all seem to fit really well. All right, now I'm going to get the other half and see if we can get all this to line up. This is what I'm not really looking forward to. As you can probably see, I am having a really tough time getting this to close up properly. And again, I think it's more about the fact that everything's got a bit of paint on it. It's probably the reason why. So what I'm going to do is try and get some of the other pieces on. And that'll give me an idea of whether I actually do need to clamp this any further, sort of before gluing it. Okay, so we've got this roof piece. And then underneath we have a poly cap, and I think this is for the gun. So this sort of slots into this underside piece, and then this should all go in here. Okay, so it does get pretty dark in there. You can hardly see poor old Gurney up the back there, and I haven't even got the glass on yet, so you're going to have some you know, some parts obscured on the interior once the glass goes in. But it looks like the fit is pretty good. I think I'm pretty happy with that. So think I can get some glue in there. I'm sort of wondering whether it's worth, and I might do this off camera, I might just get a little bit of putty in there once I've glued everything, just so I can get some really nice sharp corners. So yeah, because there are these sort of small gaps here, which, you know, are fine to fill. It's not going to take much to fill those gaps, but they are sort of noticeable. They should be sort of clean, you know, pretty clean sort of joints. While I'm waiting for the fuselage to dry, all the gluing I'm doing on that, I can finally put together the landing gear. So I've done, you know, a lot of the cleanup of seams, certainly on the bottom of the feet as well. Alright, so let's have a look at how we put this together. Now, for these long bits, there's these detail parts that go on the side, but we have this bit which I've already glued up. Let's see, it's this side, so something like so. Okay, and then we sandwich this one here. Okay, and then we take the ramp and attach that here. A number of pegs that you've got to sort of line up. And that all press fits really well. And then we start putting on the legs. So, which ones go where? Alright, so these ones on the side here, like so. Which the next one's these ones. So you really can't mess these up. All the pegs are sort of, you know, made for a particular legs. So yes, which is handy for someone like me who struggles to read instructions sometimes. And these back ones, yeah, like so. Now, for whatever reason, these ones feel a little bit loose, so I might have to apply a bit of glue to them. I'm trying to work out whether it's worth sort of gluing this all together and then painting it all as one piece. And I'm actually thinking probably not. There is a seam down the middle here, which is unlikely to be seen, but I think I want to cover it up anyway. Just because it's sort of on the back of the tail, yeah, I might clean that up. I have fixed the seams on the fuselage. You can see where the putty's gone in there. It wasn't putty, I used Mr. Surfacer 500 and just sanded that back. There is some unfortunate sort of seams that run down the length of the tail on both the top and underneath, so I've had to sort of clean those up. I haven't bothered with sort of this bit in here, this seam here, because it's not seen once the landing gear is in. So that's all ready to go, sort of getting ready to put all the detail bits on. Now for the landing gear, now this is not glued together, it's sort of just put in place, but there are some sort of seams in here that I had to deal with. So you can see where I've fixed those up. Again, they're not really going to be seen, but you know, if I'm doing all the sanding and stuff, I might as well get it done. And I guess it's probably a bit more important on this one, which is where the landing gear's all folded up, because you may see bits of that if you look sort of at the back of the craft. Now, as far as the connection of the landing gear goes, each of these options have 4 pegs which match up to these 4 holes. Now, just when I was sort of trying before to attach these, what I found is it's actually easier to take off the front 2 legs make sure that the this little flap is folded all the way towards the fuselage, and then having these two legs off just makes it a bit easier to sort of seat the landing gear in place. Then you can reattach the front feet. And you're good to go. And then for the deployed landing gear, you fold down this little flap here, and you can see you don't see that much in there, certainly not on camera. I can sort of see it here, but you know. And look, it sits reasonably well on the landing gear. There is a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of give in it. So yeah, but it certainly looks the part. You know, it's such a great stance this thing has when it's landed. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's what it looks like in flying mode. There's a little bit of a gap up the back here. Be nice if that just sat a little bit better. But I don't think there's much I can do about that. Now these two holes underneath here are for the stand, so you get this little bit here that goes into here. And if we get the stand out, so the stand is it's an interesting stand. I wouldn't say it's the worst one I've seen, but you know, it's alright, I guess. So we've got the base here, we've got the stand, which is made up of two pieces. So it goes like this, and then with the attachment on here, you can this, and it actually holds it pretty well. Like, it ain't going anywhere, so that's a good thing. Yeah, at this stage I don't think I'm going to paint up the base. I might do it eventually, but for now I'm happy with the base as it is. I might even eventually think of using an acrylic clear rod to mount this on, but for the purpose of this video series I won't be painting the base, I'll just be painting the craft itself. So let's take this off. We've got this little bit on the back. Now I've still got some dust on there from when I was doing all the sanding on it. Get rid of that, and this goes that way. So it just holds in there. I don't think I need to put any glue in. And this one pops at the end. And we've got these really delicate sort of guard rails. They do go a specific way. Get all these little pegs sort of lined up. And then make sure they're well and truly home. Okay, now I've got the two rails in place. What I'm going to do is just put a bit of a dab of glue, but do it from the underside. Just on each of these little pegs here. Okay, next we've got some detail bits around the around where the wings go. So I've got thankfully these bits I think are keyed, so they can only go one way. They provide this separate piece for the Atreides logo, which goes into this slot here. I don't want to push it in because I actually want to paint it first, and there's no way for me to get that out once I've put it in. So I'm going to wait till I paint it all before I put that on. There we go. So this one should go here. Yep, it does. And although they feel reasonably good on there, I'm just going to put a little dab of glue just to hold them in place, I think. We have 8 of these things which are supposed to click into place. There's a little little tab at the top there that you can see, and that has to line up with this little socket in here. So, and then it's supposed to click in place like so. For the glass, I'm going to leave that for now because I'm going to actually mask that up for the, I'll take you through the masking of that in the next video when I sort of get into the painting. Okay, I will be painting the wings separately, but just to sort of take you through the construction of them, actually shouldn't matter, these things are all the same, but the wings are different, so you need to keep an eye on that. So these clip in here like so, and it's actually a bit of a ratchet sort of system, so that's interesting. I might yeah, I might keep those on the wings because I reckon that's going to help me, you know, I'm going to have something to hold when I paint them. You can see on the top we've got one sitting under the other, and I can tell you now this thing is definitely back heavy. It wants to sort of really sit on the back of its on the back of the ramp there, so I don't know where I could sort of put weights in it though, because what I really need to do is put some weights up there. But anyway, let's look at it with the wings out if we can. Well, it definitely sits a lot better on the landing gear when the wings are out. Oh wow, this thing is very cool. Look at that. And as you move one of the wings, the other one does move. So you can sort of pose them. How cool is that? Yeah, this would definitely be way better to pose in flight mode, but I'm just trying to work out how long it is. Okay, from wingtip to wingtip we are talking, let's say 72 centimeters. Yikes. Yep, it's big. Definitely looks a lot cooler though, with the wings out. So I'd really like to see if I can fit this in my display cabinet. Okay, so a couple of things with the wings, they are really awkward just because of the length of them, and trying to take them out again was actually a little bit tricky because some of them clicked in place and some of them didn't. So once I've got it painted, I just need to make sure that it's got full positive click. I'm going to start with the painting process, so I'm going to leave this video here. Just for the assembly of the kit, it's going together really well, so I'm really happy with the assembly of the kit. But until the next video, which is all going to be the painting and the weathering, I'll catch you later.